So what I'm going to teach you here today requires a great deal of discipline, but when I walk you through this, I want you to understand that I'm going to train you kind of in reverse order. Remember, I think of the golf swing as three critical systems, right? You have your body as one system, you have your arms as a second system, and you have your wrists as the third and final system. And every one of these systems plays a vital role in the entire complexity of the swing shape. We're going to start out in step number 1 here, training system 2 and system 3 to work from a delivery position to impact and making sure that your wrist is in a perfect spot. And in that same step, we're going to work on trying to keep the arm moving with the chest and the hips slowed down and stalled out. And then as we start to get proficient with the drill, we're going to start adding the engine back to that movement. And you can start to test this at each one of the steps along the way to know that you're doing these movements correctly and you're seeing the results that you're looking for before you really start ramping things up. This is a great drill to help you build your golf swing around. So how we're going to start out by doing this is we're going to start by moving our body from a static address position into a light impact position. And I say light because a full impact position is going to have your hips whipped open quite a bit. You're going to have a little bit more lateral side bend. It's a position that won't allow you to do a ton of reps in. So a light impact position is simply, if you go into a static address position, I want you to imagine you're holding the golf club here. Put your lead or your trail hand behind your back. And I want you just to shift your hips left, keep your head back in behind the ball. And as you do that, you can see that the tilt increased and my V in my lead hand now just went up to my lead shoulder. Now what I want you to do is I want you to slightly bow that wrist, and where your wrist is pointed is the position that you're going to be moving to for this first half of step number 1. Now the reason why I had you follow that sort of protocol is because the strength of your grip is going to determine where your wrist is pointed. Real weak grips will be pointed more down the target line. Real strong grips will be pointed more out in front of us. Neutral grips are going to be pointed in the direction where I have it right now. Now, from this position, you're just going to learn this simple little movement that you're going to be working back to from just in front of your trail thigh. I want you to hold the thumb of your lead hand, and I want you to let your arm swing down underneath your shoulder, and I want you to turn the wrist so it's back right in the same spot. So in this position, when it's in front of your trail thigh, your wrist should be anatomically flat and pointed directly out in front of you. From here, you're just going to let that thumb fall, and you're going to turn the wrist perfectly down the target line. And I know a lot of you at home might be thinking to yourself, that's it? I can do that all day long. Well, try it out, because you're going to find that when you go back and look at a rep or a series of reps of 50 on camera, that there's going to be some variance in there. And if there's variance, guess what that's doing to the club face? That's changing the face angle. The club face is the king or the queen of your castle. It's the matriarch to your golf. If you don't have the club face working through the point of contact at the same exact way every single time, then consistency is not going to be one of those things that you're going to find. So I want you to get really good at that small movement first. The second piece of this is to now keep the arm moving through the hitting area. In the golf swing, we know that the body goes through this big loading and unloading phase. We know that it accelerates and decelerates in a very specific order. Your hips are going to accelerate and they're going to slow down first, which is moving the torso and the shoulders into position, and then they slow down. And then the arms and the hands go. Now, when you watch really good swingers of the golf clubs, what you're going to notice is that even with the arms slowing down to let the club release, is that the hands and the arms really never stop. The shoulder plane steepens, and then we move into finish. So what you're going to be trying to do here to fight off a lot of the desire to help the golf club do a lot of the work that it's designed to do, is now you're going to keep your lead arm moving from just in front of your trail thigh through impact over to the lead side of your body. Now, if you look at my lead side of my body here, my arm is swung through just about hip high. But what you'll notice is that my wrist is now pointed directly behind me, and it is anatomically flat or slightly bowed. So it goes from anatomically flat in front of my trail thigh, starts to rotate and points more down the target line and bows a little bit on the way through. My arm moves into an extended position out in front of my body. Notice that I have a lot of space here underneath my armpit. That right there is the entire step number 1 in this drill. When you can do this slowly and methodically, and you can do this tension-free, then you're ready to start taking on the second step. Remember, your chest is not turning with your arm. Your arm is swinging through like it's a grandfather clock swinging underneath your pivot point of your shoulder, back and forth. And don't string reps together like I'm doing here, until you know that your wrist position is perfect. You do not want to have your club face dancing all over the place. So that little bit of bowing of the wrist on the way through is helping you deal off the club and helping you fight off a lot of that big extension, that big cupping in the wrist. And now you're ready for showtime here. So one of the things that I like to do to finish up step number one, just to make sure that I'm doing it properly, is I like to hit some balls. And these golf balls are gonna go somewhere between 5 and 10 yards. This is a good testament or a good challenge for you at home that have always been a little bit ball bound or a little bit too focused on the club. If you stay disciplined and you focus on getting your arm to the other side and your wrist in the right spots, and you worry less about the golf club, the ball and the club's interaction is gonna be perfect. If you start focusing on trying to get that golf ball to fly, then you're not ready for step number two. So let's go ahead and test it out. Let's see how we do. So we're gonna take our setup position, lead wrist only, okay? I'm gonna move my hips left, open them up slightly, chest is nice and square. My wrist is now gonna be anatomically flat, and I'm keeping my arm moving through the hitting area. That was really good, solid, crispy, clean contact. A lot of you at home are not going to be able to do that on your first rep. I can do that because I've done it millions of times. That doesn't make me better than you, I know these movements. So take your time until you can hit the center of the club face. Things to be aware of. Don't push on the shaft of the left thumb to get the club to go down. Make sure you're just focusing in on the wrist functions and keeping the arm moving. Keep the pressure off of the shaft. The club will do the work for you. Let's do one more rep, and then we're gonna advance into step number two where we start picking up the pace here. So be disciplined. Ball position should be in the correct spot. Head back, hips opened, okay? Okay, stop. Check the lead arm is moved to the exact same spot. Left wrist is in the exact same spot. I just hit that ball really crispy. I just hit 2 for 2, and those golf balls went 15 yards. So it went a little bit further than I was saying. But if I did this drill for 50 or 60 balls, I should be able to look up and see a hula hoop full of golf balls out there, which is kind of fun. And this is the reason why I think a lot of you at home actually start to get better with your chipping and your pitching, is because now you can understand how to control the club face, and you have a better understanding of the low point as well, even though chipping and pitching can be an entirely different technique. Now, let's get busy with step number two. Step number two is where we start putting the engine, so system number one, back to system number two and system number three. And I want you to think about the golf swing being like this. If I were to sit up and just let my arms swing back and forth, this is an independent movement. This is very tension-free. If I wanted my arm to go faster without being tense, what would I do? Well, I could start introducing a little bit of hip turn and a little bit of hip shift, a little bit of body turn. And I could start stalling my body out and letting my arm get propelled off of my body. That's what the golf swing is all about, and that's exactly what this drill is teaching you. Now, in the second step of this is where you need to stay really, really disciplined about what you just learned on step number one. But now what we're gonna do is, instead of setting ourselves into a static impact position, is we're gonna start from a static address position. And from this static address position, we're just gonna make a little tiny shift onto our trail side. So we're gonna feel a little bit of pressure increase, and we're gonna turn our body back. So now my lead arm is now just outside my trail thigh. And from here, I'm gonna shift my pressure back to my lead ankle, just trying to keep my shoulders and chest closed. And as my weight starts to get to my lead ankle, I'm gonna now use my obliques to rotate the hips back, and now I'm gonna let the arm swing through. So it's basically starting from a static address position, it's going right ankle, left ankle, rotate the hips, and let the arm swing through. Now, I understand that that's probably a lot to think about, because it is a lot to think about, but simplify how you're doing this stuff. Think about just a little small shift, turn the chest back, shift back to your left side, try to keep the chest closed as your hips are opening up, because the hips are gonna turn the shoulders around. So what it's gonna look like in a slow, sort of methodical fashion is a little small shift, turn, keep my shoulders where they are, shift left, open the hips up, and let the arm swing through. And you can do this with some control at first of the movements until you start getting proficient with it. So little small shift, turn the chest. Okay, remember my arm is gonna be swinging through independently. So to get it to the other side, I'm gonna shift my ankle to shift onto my lead ankle. I'm keeping the head back, I'm letting my arm swing through. So a little pressure shift, turn your chest. Okay, now when you do this, the things to look out for is making sure that when your arm swings through, that you've got your lead leg, ankle, knee, and hip socket, and shoulder stacked right on top of one another when the lead arm starts to swing through. That's great for low point control. You've now moved your center of mass and you've got your primary pivot point in the golf swing in the correct spot to be able to get the club to bottom out in the same spot. You've moved in the correct sequence because your hips have pulled your shoulders around, and now you're ready for success. So how I want you to practice it is doing a bunch of reps, just lead arm only, little small pressure shift, turn. Okay, keep your shoulders closed, shift left, open the hips up. Your chest should be perfectly square to the target line. Okay, your hips should be open and your arm should swing through. You get good at this, that little movement right there, and you couple that back with the golf club in the right hand function that I'll teach you in the third and final step of this drill, and now you've got the entire basis of the drill that you can go out there and start building upon. Before we hit any golf balls, before we get to step number 3 and we start ramping this up, as part of step number 2, what I like to do is bring the golf club back in, and I like to start training the trail hand, the trail wrist and the trail arm and the body, how it should be working through the point of contact within the release. And so this is gonna feel a little bit weird for a lot of you at home. So what I want you to do now is I want you to grab your golf club, and I want you to now be able to do the same exact drill. So you're gonna go ahead and take your setup, little small shift to your trail side, turn back, keep your chest closed, shift left, let the arm swing through. Your chest should still be 100% square. The lead arm should be extended out in front of the body. The lead wrist should be flat. Now watch what I do here. I'm gonna keep my chest, my buttons behind my belt buckle, and I'm gonna keep my shoulder back from the golf ball as much as I can, and I'm gonna reach underneath and go get the golf club. This position right here looks familiar to a lot of you, I'm sure, and you're gonna feel what it's like to now have extension and the correct hand and arm path on top of good club face control. That position is one that I want you to get addicted to. Aside from the compression that you're gonna be creating down here, I want you to get addicted to that position. What you feel through the entire body, lead hip, trail shoulder, what you feel to get your arms extended into that spot. When you can get that connected to that movement, now you can start actually trying to hit some golf balls with it when it's all said and done, okay? So now we're gonna go ahead and do one more rep. So turn your chest, keep your chest pointed back here, shift left, keep your chest closed, let the arms swing through. Okay, make sure your arm is in the right spot, your body's in the right spot. Reach and go get the club. Get addicted to this feeling. I feel stretch in my lead side flank. I feel my arms extended. I can see the direction of the club here. I'm gonna be trying to work to get back to that spot. This is where we start to enter step number 3. Now creating a real movement that we can start hitting golf balls. So how we like to do this is I'm gonna go ahead and take my setup now with my trail hand on the golf club, just touching it very lightly. And we're gonna do the exact same protocol here. And we're gonna be able to back check on camera if we're ready to start hitting balls. So we're gonna go ahead and small pressure shift, turn the chest back, keep the chest closed, shift onto your lead side, and get back to that same spot that you just rehearsed and you went and got. If it looks and feels the same way, then guess what? It probably is. If you can do that repetitively, now you're ready to start introducing the golf ball and start welcoming yourself to the compression club here at MyGolfDNA. So I'm gonna bring a golf ball and get it ready to go. I'm gonna do a couple of practice reps now that I've walked through the entire protocol. Okay, so it's small pressure shift trail side, turn the chest back. The club should be about parallel to the ground. Chest is closed. I'm gonna shift my weight left. Okay, get my arms extended out into that same spot. Feels really good. Okay, did 2 really good successful reps. I'm gonna hit a small shot. Okay, really good solid contact there. Now here's the key. When you practice this, don't just get wrapped up in the strike at first. Get wrapped up in what you're trying to get done. When you hit a shot, if it's thin, fat, toey, or heely, but you're in the wrong position over here, then we shouldn't even count the rep. If you get to this spot over here and you know it's right, then start kind of going back in your brain about what it is that you just got done over here. Did you hit it solid? Did you mishit it? If you mishit it, we need to be able to accurately identify what those mishits are. Now in the world of golf, there's thousands of different variables that can cause some really, really bad stuff through the bottom of the swing arc, and you're never gonna be able to know exactly what that is unless we do like a fault fix series, or you come over to the website and let us watch you do the movement. But laying down this baseline movement and following those steps is now giving you something that you can build onto and build a little bit more into. Getting connected to this whole function of the body and the arms, that system of movements, is what's gonna change your golfing lives. It really is. But I now understand that I have better sequence, I'm avoiding early extension, and I have a left wrist position that's not flipping or scooping down through the bottom of the swing arc. So if you look, you can see my left wrist doesn't have any cupping in it. All that work that we did on step number 1 and 2 and being accountable for getting myself into that position is helping you fight off a lot of the bad stuff that you run into through the bottom of the swing arm. Start out with this drill, have some fun with it, build into it. If you have any questions or comments on it, you need further assistance, come over to the website or post the comments up below. On the website, you can take out a membership and you can get 2 lessons with me a month for just the price of about a dozen Pro Vs. And I can look at your golf swing, and the good news is that we're still offering the consult phase where every single membership that you take out, you come and sit down with me for 30 to 40 minutes. We go through your golf swings, we design the plan that's specific to you and your DNA, and you start the processes of getting better at this game once and for all. Let's get out there and start playing some good golf.